me see here. Pull it up. Just 1 second. Sure do appreciate you guys coming on. It gives me an opportunity to share with you some things that the Creator's been sharing with me over the last, a few days. Again, reading the Torah portion is like the best thing that could ever happen to anybody. It gives us the opportunity to draw near. Last week we dealt with Shemini, and we dealt with the circumcision on the 8th day. We dealt with the priest being inaugurated, the Kohanim. We dealt with the lives of Aharon's sons that were lost in that process. We also found out that there are certain things that one can and cannot do. Okay. And then also too, we dealt with the food, how important food is to us and what, it represents, and generally the food represents the attitude that one may have, towards Yahweh, whether, they're going to be in cooperation with him, or they're going to be shepherded by him, or they're just going to be a predator, or they're going to be unclean. So we found out about some uncleanness. This week, we're dealing with the idea, again, dealing with, that which is clean and that which is unclean. This is a big theme for the Torah. Okay. You can find it throughout the Torah. You can find it throughout the writings. You can find it throughout the prophets, where Yah is very particular about how we approach him. He's very particular about what we do and how we live our lives. He's very particular about what we eat. And so for us to understand this degree of sanctity and this degree of what one would call to be kadosh, okay, is high level. And this is why a lot of people don't want to deal with this, okay? They don't want this part of this life. They don't want the cleansing from this part of the life, okay? Because it means that you can't do certain things. It's prohibitive. It doesn't give you the free reign to do what you want. You can't eat what you want. And so, you can't live the way that you want. You can't dress the way that you want. And so it's been defined by those who are opposed to this lifestyle and those who are in opposition of calling it Torah observant, okay, called legalism. So people are going to start hating you and telling you that you're being a legalist because you're doing the things that Yahweh has asked you to do, okay? I can understand why they've said these things, because they have another book that's giving them instructions and telling them that they don't have to do this any longer. And so they're making it easy for them. It's just have faith, believe, mix it up, and it's all good. There's no problem. Okay. This in particular Torah portion this week is called Zazria. Okay. Excuse me. Thazria. Could be Tazria, but it's not a hard T sound. It's a TH sound. And it's called Thazria. Okay. And Thazria, its root has to do with the seed. Okay. That's what it has to do. Let me see here. If we can find here. Yes. A seed. S-E-E-D. Okay. It's from a root word that's zar. It's how can I put that? It's from Zadi, and then there's the letter resh. Okay. So this is where it comes from. Okay. And basically what Zaria means is the first time that it's used in the Hebrew scriptures is called to yield, okay, to scatter seed. So now we're talking about a woman. So she has the ability to hold the seed, but then when the seed starts to germinate within her and it starts growing within her, there's going to come a time where she has to expel that seed from her body, okay? And during the process of this birth, she then becomes what they would call unclean, okay? So we're going to read a little bit about that right quick, just to kind of get us started. And this is in chapter number 12 of what they would call Leviticus, but we don't call it that. We call it Vayikra, okay? Vayikra, meaning, and he called. So remember, the idea is you follow the theme of the book. The book is speaking to you all the time. It's telling you exactly what Yahweh is saying, what he's calling. He's calling certain things clean, and he's calling certain things unclean. One of the words that he uses for clean, and you can write this down, is called Tahor. Tahor. And that's really what you would call pure, okay? Or it could be purity, or it could mean clean, okay? And they usually say ritually clean, okay? Or ceremonially clean, okay? So there's that word for purity. The word for unclean is called tameh, okay? Tameh, okay? And is impurity and is uncleanness, okay? Okay, then you're going to have another word, tell me if I'm going too fast, called a nida, okay, or nida. Nida is a time of what you would call separation, okay. Okay, separation, right? So it's a time of being divided, okay, to be separate, to be put aside, okay? And generally, this word nada is associated with a woman's, what you would call her cycle, okay? The time of her menstrual cycle, okay? During her cycle, because everything in the Hebrew lifestyle and culture has cycles. You know, there's a weekly cycle, there's a monthly cycle. I don't know if you guys know this, but even I'm a by trade, I am a licensed esthetician. I'm a skin therapist by trade. And what we learned is about the different cycles of the skin. It has several cycles. Okay. When you're first born, listen to this. This is really wild. When you're first born, right, your skin has what they call a CFR, okay, which is a cell. I put it says CRF. Yeah, the CRF. C is for cell, R is for renewal, and then the F is called a factor. Okay, so every skin cell has what they call a skin renewal factor. When you're first born, your skin recycles itself every, take a guess, how many days?
7.
7. Every 7 days when you're a child, your skin comes off every single 7 days. It comes off. The moment you hit here, okay? So every time you hit the 8th day, that's the beginning of the next, the next cycle. So we can pick that up from there. When you become a teenager, your skin cycle goes from every 7 days to every 14 days. Okay. And then when you get older, it goes from a 14-day to a 21-day. And it just goes up by 7s. Okay. All right. And then eventually your skin is taking 30 something days, 40 something days to recycle. The older you get, your cycle starts to diminish the timing. Instead of being 7 days, it'll be all the way up to, 45 days, something like that. Okay. So what we find I'm just mentioning that because even in our Torah portion this week, you're going to be hearing a lot that has to do with the skin. Okay. The skin in Hebrew is a Hebrew word called or. Okay. Or. O-R-E. Okay. And also, too, what's another word that you hear when you hear the word or? What do you think about?
Light.
Light. Thank you. Okay. So they both sound the same. Okay. But the light that's dealing with the light, the word is dealing with the light is the one with the aleph. Okay. And the one that's dealing with the skin is the ayin. Okay. So this one up here is an ayin, and this one down here is an aleph. Okay. But it means light. The skin receives light. Okay. It receives light, and that's how light is actually all the nutrients from like vitamin D is received through the skin. Okay. So they work hand in hand. I don't know why y'all decided to name it or, but skin also represents this idea of you will call nakedness. Okay. So we're going to be dealing a lot with this week about the skin, and we're going to be talking about what Yahweh has deemed, for us to look at to determine what's clean and what's unclean. We also see, childbirth. We're looking at that. So skin conditions can make a person unclean. Natural childbirth can make a woman unclean. Semen emissions can make a man unclean. And he has this phrase in there called until evening. Okay. Depending on what it is, determines how long a person can be clean or unclean. We understand that holiness is transmitted through touch. It's not magic. It's touch. Okay. So we're going to talk a lot more about that as well. I just kind of wanted to give you guys some basic definitions on a couple of words before we go and read some things that might be otherwise quite disturbing to you when you read it. Okay. Well, we have to look at it. All right. So we have those things. Okay. So let's take a look right quick. And I'm erasing this right quick. Let's take a look at our Torah portion, and let's just read. Chapter number 12 is not even that long. It's actually really quite short in terms of reading. So now, after Yah had given the directions on clean and unclean animals and what we could and we could not eat, now he deals with humanity. Okay. So the animals that he was telling us not to eat, they were created on the same day that you and I were created. Okay. They were created on the 6th day. So he's letting us know, hey, these are the things that are coming out of the earth. Now that I've told you about that, which you cannot digest, now I'm going to tell you about something that's on the inside of you that can cause uncleanness. Okay. I got stuff that comes in you that can make you unclean, and I got stuff that's coming out of you that can make you unclean. All right. And it's all, if you notice, it's not, I don't want to use the term, it's not spiritual, because Yahweh is spirit. He is. He's mind and he's thought. He is those things. Well, the way that has been framed to us through teachings of other teachings, we get this misconception about what the Creator says versus what someone else says. Okay. Well, let's read a little bit in Leviticus or Vayikra number 12, and let's hear what the Creator says. The Creator said to Moshe, Yahweh said this, he said, tell the people of Israel, if a woman conceives, and that's your word right there for Tazria, right here. So she brings forth seed, and she spreads forth seeds, and she gives birth to a boy. Okay. She's going to be unclean for 7 days, as with the same uncleanness as in a nadah, okay, which is a menstrual cycle. So she's going to be unclean for 7 days. Now, when she is having her, okay, when she's having her menstrual period, okay, on the 8th day, the baby's foreskin is to be circumcised. Okay, this is a Torah. Okay, this is a instructions that they would have to do. What I find to be pretty interesting about this is that in the New Testament, we don't hear about a circumcision on the so-called Savior. Has anyone ever heard anything about him being circumcised? None of the writers ever mention him being circumcised. Isn't that convenient? They never mention him being circumcised. In his birth, there's no record of him being circumcised. We would like to think that he was circumcised, because I think in the book of, I don't know if it's Luke or Matthew, where it talks about John the Baptist, he was circumcised. But for whatever reason, you don't hear no writings about the circumcision of Yeshua. And that's done on purpose. So they told you every other detail about his birth, being born in a manger and all this kind of stuff, and him being brought to the temple when he's a child, but they never tell you that he was circumcised. Okay. Why is circumcision important? Somebody tell me.
It's the outward sign that we're part of the covenant.
Yeah, we're part of a and let me be, and I'm asking questions. What covenant, when you say that we're part of a covenant, what covenant are you talking about?
The covenant y'all made with Abraham.
Okay. So yes. So we understand that that's a separate covenant from the covenant that Yah made with the children of Israel. Okay. And let me show that to you, because you have to know this. This is very important. If we don't know this, then we're going to get kind of lost in the sauce. And then we want to understand why Yah is doing what he's doing. Okay. We'll get kind of confused. Okay. So in chapter number 5 of Deuteronomy, this is where it's at. Moshe called all the Israel and said to them, listen, Israel, to the laws and the rulings, which are the Kukim and the Mishpatim, which I am announcing in your hearing today, so that you will learn them and take care to obey them. Yahweh, our Elohim, made a covenant with us at Korev. Yahweh did not make this covenant with our fathers, okay, but with us who are all of us here alive today. Okay, then he goes on to talk about when and how that came about and how they were being talked to, and then he's going to begin to tell them the actual covenant, which is what they would call the 10 words, which is mistranslated as the 10 commandments. Okay, so Yah did not make the same covenant with us that he made with our fathers. Okay, the covenant that he made with our fathers are in 2 different places. Okay, the first place that he made this covenant, and I want you guys to write this down, is in Genesis chapter number 15. Okay, Genesis chapter, which is called Bereshith. Genesis chapter number 15 is going to give you the covenant that Yah made. Okay, so let's look at it. Genesis 15:1 says this: sometime later, the word of Yahweh came to Avram in a vision. He said, don't be afraid, Avram. I am your protector. Your reward will be very great. Avram replied, Yahweh, Elohim, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless? And Eleazar, okay, from Damascus, inherits my possessions. You haven't given me a child, Avram continued. So someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Yahweh came to him. This man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. Okay. Then he brought him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if you can count them. Your descendants will be that many. Okay. So let's start right there. So again, he doesn't have a son. He's concerned. How are you going to give me everything you tell him? You said, walk through this land. It's going to be mine. You're talking about you're going to give me all this and that. You're going to give me a grain. You're going to give me everything I see. But what good is it to me if I don't have any descendants? I don't have an heir. Okay. Yah tells him that his descendants, okay, will be what? He told him to look up at the sky and count the stars. Okay. If you can count them, count them. If you can count them. Okay. Your descendants will be that many. Not one. Many. This is the difference between us and Christianity. They believe in one seed. They try to tell you in the book of Galatians chapter number 3 about one seed, that he promised in one seed. He did not promise in one seed. They used the word zerah and said, well, he didn't say one. I mean, many. He said one, because they used the word zerah. Zerah means a seed. Okay. But you know for a fact that Abraham had other children outside of his wife, right? So he had Ishmael. That wasn't the one that he wanted. He's had other sons through Keturah after he had Yitzchak. Okay. Our promise and our covenant with our father was talking about how he was going to make his descendants as numerous as the stars. This is why Yah always says, if you can count the stars and you can tell me the number that there are, then Israel will cease to exist to be a people in front of me. Okay. So this is where he made this covenant with him. Right. You said, well, how was the covenant made? The covenant here was, let's continue. It said he believed in Yahweh. Okay. Now I don't like this translation because I told you before that this word believe right here is causative. Yah caused him to believe. It wasn't something that came within himself, according to the Hebrew text and its verb. He never caused himself to do this. Yah caused him to believe. But here it says he believed in Yahweh, okay? And he credited to him as righteousness. All right. So if you reverse engineer this, what it's saying is Yahweh caused Abraham to become righteous, okay? He caused him to become righteous by causing him to believe what he said. He believed that whatever Yah said that he told him, he believed that Yahweh could do it because Yahweh gave it to him. So he could believe that, okay? Without going too deep, because we only have a certain amount of time, there's several different ways that a verb can be conjugated, okay? It can be done in a simple way, meaning in active, you're the one doing the action, okay? Passive, it's happening to you in a very simple way. Someone else is doing the action, okay? Then you have another way that is called a forceful action. Either you're doing the action, you're forcing something, or the action is being forced upon you. That's passive, okay? The next one is called a causative, okay? Either you're causing something to happen or something is being caused to happen to you. That's passive, okay? But the verb that says that it's reflexive, meaning you're the one who's actually doing the action. Meaning if I said I was hungry, I would feed myself, okay? If I needed to get dressed, either I can have someone dress me or I can be caused to be dressed by someone else, or I can dress myself. If I dress myself, it's reflexive. That means I'm the one doing the action. I'm the one causing it to happen, okay? So in our Hebrew language, it tells you what the verbs that are being used. And in this in particular passage, in verse number 6, and it says that he believed Yahweh. This is misleading because it doesn't tell you how he believed. It just tells you he believed. And so you and I would think, well, he just simply believed. And that's not the way it was. It's a causative. It's causative. Yah caused him to believe. He didn't cause himself to believe. Yahweh caused him to believe, which is quite different from him having something within himself. So what am I saying? He did not establish his own righteousness. Okay, he didn't. Yahweh determined and made him righteous by giving him the belief. Yah gave him the belief. That's what he gave him. And this is proven by the fact, listen to me carefully. Okay. This is proven by the fact that Yah had came to him and told him what he was going to do. And he said, what did he say? We saw what he said. What good would your gifts be to me if I continue childless? And he inherits my possessions. You haven't given me a child. Okay. So the gift that Yahweh wants to give him is the belief. So he can believe what God told him. That's why he came there. Okay. Based on trusting what God said about going to the land. But in terms of him believing, he laughed at the fact that Yah told him that he was going to have a son with Sarah. He laughed at that. Okay. Let's continue to read. So, and we'll be able to prove that. So, here it is in verse number 6. It says that he believes here that Yahweh caused him to believe, and Yahweh credited to him as righteousness. Okay. Then he said to him, I am Yahweh who brought you out of the Ur-Kasdim to give you this land as your possession. Okay. So I'm the one who brought you out. I'm the one who brought you to this land to give it to you. He replied again, Yahweh, how Elohim, how am I to know that I will possess it? Again, where's the faith? He's asking questions. He replied, when Yah told him what he said, he asked him, how am I to know? So this whole idea about just believe and have faith, that's not what Yah is talking about. Not in his language. He's not talking about that. So he didn't, even after he told him he was going to give him a seed, Yah caused him to believe. When he told him that he was going to give him a land, Abraham asked the question, how am I supposed to know? So are you saying that he believed him for a child, but he didn't believe him for the land? We got to start using our minds, okay? So he answered him. Listen to what he said. He answered him. Yah told him to bring him a 3-year-old cow, bring me a 3-year-old goat, and bring me a 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon, okay? Bring these animals to me. And so he brought him all these. He cut the animal in two, all the animals in two, and he placed the pieces opposite each other, and he didn't cut the birds in half. Sounds like, what Yah has the priest do, right? Except for in this case of cutting as a covenant. So what you see right here in verse number 10 is Yah's asking him to bring these animals and cut them in half, because in the Hebrew tradition and the Hebrew culture, when you cut an animal in half and you walk between the two pieces, you're making a covenant. When Moshe killed those cows and those oxen and took their blood, he cut those animals in half and took their blood and he splattered it on the people. So here, the birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Abraham drove them away. And the sun was about to set, and a deep sleep fell on Avram, and horror and a great darkness came over him. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just go right to what he did. Okay. So Yahweh walked through these pieces. Okay. Verse number 18 says this: that day, this day that he did this, Yahweh made a covenant with Avram. Yahweh made a covenant with Avram on that in particular day to tell him, I have given this land to your descendants, not descendant, your descendants. And then he describes from the valley of Egypt all the way to the great river to the Euphrates, a territory of the Kenini, the Kenizi, and the Kadmoni, the Kiti, the Perizi, the Raphaim, the Imri, the Ka'anini, the Girgashi, and the Yevusi. Okay. So that's the first time that Yah made a covenant, and that covenant had to do with land and it had to do with descendants right there. Okay. So that's the first one. Did he mention anything about circumcision? No. Then not one. Chapter number 16 tells us after this, guess who gets pregnant? We ain't gonna read it, but it talked about Hagar. He went back and told Sarah what it was, and she got pregnant. Okay, so this is what happened in chapter number 16. You can read it when you get an opportunity. Okay, so Abraham was 86 years old when he had Ishmael. Okay, here you go, 17. So he had Ishmael when he's 86. Now he's 99, 13 years later. Okay, 13 years later. When Abraham was 99 years old, Yahweh appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. I'm the Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Avram fell on his face, and Elohim continued speaking with him. As for me, this is my covenant with you. Okay, so now we got something else. Here's another one. He says, this is my covenant. You will be the father of many nations. Okay, your name will no longer be Avram. Your name will be Avraham, because I'm changing your name from the Avram to Avraham, because you're going to be the father of many. Because I have made you the father of many nations. Okay, so we get this confused because we want to say that he's the father of all nations. He said many nations. The nations that he's going to make him the father of, okay, are the nations, and I think I should pull it up for us right quick, because that would make sense for us. Just so you can get an idea, so you can get it out your head that the Christians told you that they're part of, because they believe in Avraham, that all of a sudden they're part of the nations, that he's their father. That's what it's telling everybody. And we believed that at one point because we believed that we were what? We believed that we were the Gentiles. They had me believing it for a long time. Okay. Let me find this picture. Here it is. Let me show it to you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good. So here is a diagram of Abraham and his father and his brothers and his sons, okay, and all their descendants. And it just goes to a certain point and then it stops, okay? What you can see over here is that Abraham, this is his name right here. Yah changed his name because he was doing something with him, okay? He had 1, 2, 3 that they're showing us right here. Abraham had many wives. These were not the only 3. When he was about to die, he gave gifts to all his sons from all these different women. He had all kind of concubines. Okay, do your research. But off the top, he tells us who Sarah's son is, which is Yitzchak. That's the one who was promised. The one that he laughed, him and his wife laughed about, was this one called Yitzchak. And why did he laugh? Somebody tell me.
Because he was old and Sarai was old.
So why is he laughing if he has all this faith? You see, he didn't have that. He laughed. Oh, come on, that ain't gonna happen, right? He was laughing about what he was going to do with her, the one that was barren. Okay, so he has Sarah, and then he has Hagar. Hagar has Ishmael. Ishmael has 12 sons. And all these are the individuals that you'll read about in the book of Isaiah, that you'll read about in the book of Psalms. All these are Abraham's children through Ishmael. Kedar and all those are the Arabs. Okay. Hadar, Kedemah, all them. Timah, Massa, Mishma, Abdil, Nabayoth. Go look at these names in the book of Isaiah. I think it's in the chapter in the 50s and 60s. You'll find out that these are the individuals who's coming to Jerusalem to bring gifts. Okay. Also, too, he had it over here, Keturah, after Sarah died. Who did she have? She had all these. Media, remember Madon and Midian? Those are all of our relatives. You see? So all these people are coming from Abraham. You got Esau, and he went on and he married he married a Kittite and a Kivite and this other woman from Ishmael, his uncle's daughter. And he had a whole bunch of sons. And then they became a nation of chiefs. Those are the nations that Yah is talking about. That's who he's the father of. He's not the father of the United States of America. He's not the father of the Chinese. He's not the father of the Japanese. He's not the father of those people. But what the Christians want us to do is believe. All you got to do is believe, and you're going to be engrafted into this man's family to get the inheritance and the promise. What's at stake here is that they not only want the land. You can read in Psalms chapter number 81, I believe, either 81 or 83, where it talks about how these nations, okay, these nations right here, the ones that you see on this screen right here, are all involved in trying to ruin Israel and to try to take over their land. We find that Esau hates his brother, and he's happy, and he's helping them to destroy the land and people to come in and take it over because he wanted the blessing. So Abraham is the father of many nations. Okay. And those nations also include these guys. So it's just growing and growing and growing. Okay. But the individual that was to receive the blessing was this one. He got crossed out. This one, Abraham had asked the creator, can you let Ishmael rule? And Yah says, no, he's not going to rule. It's going to be Yitzchak. That's the one I chose. And then when it came time for the blessing to be given, the mother, Rivkah, remembered when she was having these troubles inside of her womb that, hey, I know he said the older is going to serve the younger. He's the older, and then he's the youngest. So when the time for the blessing came, she made sure that he inherited it, because that was of Yah's working. Because Yahweh said, I love Jacob, but I hate Esau. Okay. So everybody that Yahweh says that he hates, which is this guy right here, he hates all of them. Meaning I didn't choose them. I put distance because you put distance between me and you. So therefore, I hate you just as much as you hate me. That's what it is. Yah knew that this man hated him. He didn't have no regard for what Yahweh was saying. He had no regard for the promise. He didn't. And the reason why you know this too is because he married women that his parents told him not to. Matter of fact, we know prior to the giving of the Torah, the Yah had instructed Avram to tell Elazar to go find a wife for my son. Right here. Go find a wife for my son, but don't go and pick her from anybody else but from my family. Over here. You see? Any questions? It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Even look at here. Even look at our cousins over here. Have we not had problems with Moab and Ammon? Have they not attacked Israel? Did they not send out a hit on us and say, let's go and start a war with them when Yah says don't for us to leave them alone? Yeah. Those are our family members. Everybody that you see here. So what Yah's telling us is that you guys have people around you that's in your own family that I didn't choose. I chose you, and they hate you because you're going to receive the blessing. And the blessing is going to be the land and the descendants. Okay. Question. Was Ishmael circumcised?
I would say yes.
Yes, he was. Was Yitzchak circumcised?
Yeah. Well, yes, I know.
Yes, he was. Do you think Zimron and Jokshan and Midian and Midian and all these other guys who were Abraham's sons, you think they were circumcised?
Yes, they had to be.
They had to be. Anybody that's connected had to be, okay? Often there were people in the children of Israel out of Jacob's family that we know that Moshe almost didn't circumcise his son, and he was almost killed for that. Okay. And then when the children of Israel left Egypt, a lot of them weren't circumcised. Okay. That's why Yah is reiterating to tell the children of Israel on the 8th day, I want you to do this. Okay. Listen to this. Let me get out of here. Because it's about us understanding what is it that Yah said. Okay. So that's what he's talking about when he says that you're going to be the father of many nations. He's not talking about the Gentiles. He's not talking about those people. He's talking about people actually bloodline descendants. He said, your name will no longer be Avram, the exalted father, but your name will be Avraham, the father of many, because I've made you the father of many nations. Okay. Verse 6, I will cause you to be very what? Fruitful. And I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you. What kings? Did they have any kings in Esau's line? Yes. Do you have any kings that ruled over and from Keturah's line from all of his other sons? Yes. Kings are going to descend from Abraham. Okay. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation. An everlasting covenant cannot be broken. It's forever to be. Now, this is the kicker right here. Yah is only talking about, I want to be your Elohim for you and your descendants. That's my covenant I'm establishing. My covenant is to be your Elohim for you and your descendants after you. Listen to this. I will give you. Now you might say, well, I thought that he's not the Elohim of Esau. He is the Elohim of Esau. Listen to what I'm saying to you. He's an Elohim of Esau and he's an Elohim of Ishmael, because Yah said that when Ishmael grew up and his mother and Sarah put them out, Abraham was worried. And like, what are you going to do with him? He's not going to be able, he said, don't worry, he's going to be fine. I'm going to be with him too. You see? It's not that he had to establish a covenant with him. He said, I'm going to be with him. Why? Because he's your son, but he's not the one that I chose. Okay? So the covenant, you guys, is everlasting. And this covenant, he says, it's my covenant between me and you, Avram. Okay? And I'm going to be Elohim for you and your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land, which you're now foreigners. Okay, you're foreigners too. All the land of Canaan as a permanent possession forever, and I will be your Elohim. That's the covenant. Okay, now we got it. Now, so now he made this covenant. Now there's a sign. Okay, so now we see a difference between Genesis 15, where he cut those animals. That was the sign. He said, well, how am I supposed to know? Bring me those animals. And he cut them in half, and Yah walked between them. So that's forever. So us being descendants forever, as numerous as the stars, is connected to with those animals being cut in half, and you and I laying there through our Father, and Yahweh himself alone went through that with fire. They saw a lamp of fire, and Abraham was in a deep sleep, and he looked and he woke up in his sleep, and he was frightened, and he saw this fire going through those pieces. In any covenant, when you go through those two pieces, both parties got to go through the pieces. Just like Yaakov had to go through those pieces with his father-in-law. His father-in-law chased him down and said, hey, let's make some peace between us. So they sat down and they had some meat, and they cut the meat, and they went between the pieces. When you cut something in half, it means let happen to us, or the person who breaks this covenant, the same thing that just happened to this animal. You understand? So when Yah went through those two pieces, Abraham did not go through those pieces. Yah did that. So he was swearing by himself. He wasn't looking for any fulfillment. Listen, on Abraham's part. When you go through and you make a covenant, it's a two-party agreement. Okay. So Yahweh's covenant with him was a covenant to say, listen, I am going to give you descendants. Okay, that's going to outnumber the stars. And I'm making that promise based on what I am going to do, not what you're going to do. Our covenant with Yahweh is based upon you and I doing what he said. So we got to do our part, right? Just like when Moshe took that animal and he said, look, Israel, I'm cutting this animal today, and you guys are swearing. You have been joined to the covenant. You got to do your part. Okay. So verse number 8 says, I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners. Tell them the whole entire land. Verse number 9. Yahweh said, or Elohim said to Abraham, as for you, you are to keep my covenant. You got to keep it. You got to guard my covenant, not keep it, not put it in your pocket, not just remember it. I need you to guard it. You and your descendants after you. Okay. That's what you're supposed to do, a guard from generation to generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep guard between me and you along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. That's my covenant with you. To do what? To give you the land and to be your Elohim. Okay. So one is talking about in 15 about the stars and the descendants. And this is my covenant that I'm going to make with you, that I'm going to give you descendants, because they're the ones who are going to get it. And you said, well, what else am I going to get? And I'm going to put them in this land. Okay. So how are you going to do that? I'm going to make a promise to you. Okay. And he cut those animals. Now he comes to him later and says, hey, it's like 13 years later. And he says, hey, I want to make a covenant with you, but I need you to be pure-hearted. right? So this is the second time that he made a covenant, okay? This one is accompanied by the circumcision that has to be done. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. Just like the baby on the 8th day. This will be a sign. This will be, the sign of the covenant between me and you. That's the sign, okay? That has to do with him being our Elohim and receiving the land, generation after generation, generation after generation, generation after generation. Every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household. So he has to own them. And those bought from a foreigner, not descended from you. So anybody that's owned by him, slaves, or anybody that was purchased with money, even if they're from a foreigner, they have to be circumcised. Okay. The slave born in your house and the person brought with your money must be circumcised. Must be. That is a command. Okay. They must be circumcised. Thus, my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Okay. So all males, if you want to have proof that they're in an everlasting covenant with Yahweh, they have to be circumcised in their flesh. There's no other way around it. You can't even participate in the Passover if you're not circumcised. You could not go into Yahweh's temple if you weren't circumcised. Did they do that? Yes, we saw that in Ezekiel, where he said you allow people who were not circumcised to come in here, but nobody who's uncircumcised is not coming in no more. Listen to this. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised. Remember I told you about the idea of someone doing the action or someone causing an action to happen? Here's a great example right here of what one would call the Hithpael. It's something that he has to cause himself to do. You see? So he has to give in. He has to be part of this. Okay. So whoever's not ready to do it, like if you got a male who marries your daughter and, he doesn't want to circumcise his sons. You see? That's a problem. What happened about circumcision when their sister was Dinah, when she was raped? What's the first thing they told him? If you guys want to be part of us, you got to be what? You got to be circumcised. Okay. So any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people because he has broken my covenant. You understand? Now, the ladies, you guys need to understand this too, because Yah was telling you, here's the bad part. If a woman is with a man is uncircumcised, that man who's your head is not in a covenant with Yahweh because they've broken his covenant. They're not in covenant with him. Okay. You need to be circumcised. Elohim said to Avram, as for Sarah, your wife, Sarai, you are not to call her Sarai. Her name will be called Sarah. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. This is 13 years after he had a son with Hagar. Truly, I will bless her, meaning I will be merciful to her, and she will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. How many kings came out of Sarah? A lot of them. Okay. In the tribes of Judah, in the tribes of Ephraim. Okay. She's had, and that's the only line that he's talking about when he talks about kings coming from her. Okay. Abraham, at this time, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. And look what he said. He thought to himself, will a child be born to a man 100 years old? But I thought you said in chapter number 15 that righteousness was imputed to him because he believed. So where's his faith there? See what I'm saying? He didn't have that faith that everyone's trying to make us believe he had. Yah gave him that. It wasn't something he came within himself. He laughed. He laughed too. He fell on his face and he laughed. Did his wife laugh when she heard?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see? So they laughed. Now let me show you something before we close. So remember in Genesis 17, because that's where we are, and verse number 7, I want to flip it for you right quick, and I want you to go to what they call 1 Corinthians chapter number 7, verse number 17. Just the opposite, okay? Just the opposite. Check it out. 17:7 tells you this. I'm establishing my covenant. 17:7, I'm establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant to be your Elohim for you and for your descendants after you. Okay. Now we're going to reverse engineer this and go look at the opposite side of what they would call the new agreement, which is the new covenant, which is the New Testament. Go to the New Testament and go to the book of 1 Corinthians, and you're going to go to chapter number 7. Okay. You're going to chapter number 7. And what verse are you going to go to?
17.
17. So scroll down to 17. So one is 17:7 and the other one is 7:17. Isn't that weird? So listen. Verse number 17 says this: only let each person live the life the Lord has assigned him, and live it in the condition he was in when God called him. Okay. This is the rule that I lay down in all the congregations. Was someone already circumcised when he was called? Okay. See, now they're on this, you were called, like our book Wayikra, but this is different. He's saying that God has called people. He's calling people. So he says, was someone already circumcised when he was called? Then he should not try to remove the marks of his circumcision. Was someone uncircumcised when he was called? He shouldn't undergo Brit Milah. Brit Milah is it's a Hebrew term for called circumcision. That's what it's called, a Brit Milah. Okay. A cutting off the foreskin. Okay. He's saying, this is what Paul said, he shouldn't undergo circumcision. Being circumcised means nothing. This is what Paul said. Being circumcised means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. But what did Yah say this circumcision meant?
It's a sign between
him and his descendants after him for how long? Forever.
Forever.
Okay. So, and it's also too, he says, he that doesn't do this breaks my covenant, correct?
Yes.
Would you guys mind if I would use a word called bastard?
No.
Okay. This bastard right here, which is Paul, okay, because I call him a bastard simply because there is no genealogical records of his father and his father's father's father or none of that. He's just some tent maker and decided that, he's going to write a story. But listen what this bastard says. He says being circumcised means nothing. And being uncircumcised means nothing. What does mean something is keeping God's commandments. Isn't that interesting how he just said that? Well, what is Yahweh's command?
To get circumcised.
To get circumcised. So each person should remain in the condition he was when he was called. He's telling you, doesn't matter. He's not even telling you even if you had a slave, he's saying if you were a slave when you were called, hey, don't let it bother you. Stay a slave. Although if you can gain your freedom, take advantage of the opportunity, right? Then he gives you this whole giddy up. My point to show you this was that the way that he feels about circumcision is saying that it means absolutely nothing. That's what he just said. It means nothing. Those are his words. Those are not my words. You're going to find more of this as we continue our studies. Okay. So in summary, I like to say that, I had a friend who was like in his 60s, and I told him, hey, you need to get circumcised. You want to take Passover. And I was part of a group of people who were like, no, you don't have to get circumcised. I was like, no. And the guy came and said, hey man, do I need to get circumcised? Yeah, you better get circumcised. You're not in a covenant with Yah for him to be your Elohim if you're not circumcised. You can look at it in the Passover. You cannot take Passover. You're not circumcised. Nobody who's not circumcised can't take it. Circumcised is not allowed in the congregation of Yahweh. Okay. They say that this is a Torah, a legal, a Torah observation. And so you don't have to do it because it has to do with the law. It has absolutely nothing to do with the law. It has to do with the sign of the covenant that Yah made with Avram and his descendants after him, that he would be their Elohim. And did he give the children of Israel the land of Canaan? Yes. Did he give Adam the portion of land that he said he was going to give to him? Yes. Did he give the Medes and and those people? Did he give them their land? Yes, he did. Did he give Moab and Ammon their land? Yes, he did. Yah gives land to whoever he gets different land. When Israel came out of Egypt, he said, be careful that you guys don't go and take any of Edom's land, your brother. Don't take any of Moab's land or Ammon. That's Lot's, your relatives. You can't have none of their land. I gave it to them. So we have to expand our understanding and stop taking these Bible stories and thinking that, Yah just gave Israel land. Yah gave a whole bunch of people land. He gave the nations, when he divided the nations up, he divided them according to the number of Israel. Yah's in control of everything. Okay. So why are we mentioning this covenant? Because this is part of the Torah for Yisrael. It's an instruction. Yah is guaranteeing to make sure that male child will be in a covenant with Yah. It's a sign. It has to be in the body. You would know if someone's in a covenant with Yahweh through him being their Elohim. You have a greater chance. If you don't get the circumcision, then Yah says you broke my covenant and that man's going to be cut off. It's not like, well, I don't do it, so I'm good. I just don't want to do it. No, you have to do it. Before the children of Israel went into the land, Joshua and them took the time to circumcise everybody who wasn't circumcised, because when they were in the desert, they didn't get circumcised until that time where they were about to enter the land. Okay. And we know in Isaiah chapter number 52 that Yahweh says something. Look what he says. Let's go take like 2 minutes. And I'm gonna let you guys get some rest. This is what he says, because this goes along with that. I didn't want to not tell you what he says on this. Where's it at? It's 52. 50. No, I thought it was 52. Is it 52 or 53? I'd say I got 30 seconds. Yah has said something that I think we all need to listen to. Yeah, it's 52. Am I at 52? Yeah. That's what he says. Awake, awake, Zion, clothe yourself with strength and dress in splendid garments, Jerusalem, the holy city, for the uncircumcised and the unclean will not, will enter you no more. So these two go together. They go together. You understand? No uncircumcised person or unclean will enter Jerusalem ever again. So if someone wants to tell you, oh, no, it doesn't matter, Paul said that you don't have to be circumcised and you're going to go walk up into Yahweh's place, you're wrong. You're not going to walk up into Yahweh's place. The uncircumcised and unclean are not going into Jerusalem. That's why Yah has to cleanse us. Trust me, nobody's going into the land uncircumcised. He says in Ezekiel 44 and 45, nobody is going to the land unclean. That's why we got to be washed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on Yom Kamishi. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Any questions, contributions, additions, subtractions, statements?
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is the period of uncleanness and the period of blood purification twice as long for a female child than a male?
Because she has to produce, because everything is inside of a woman is more. You guys have more. You have to have the strength. Okay. It's a buildup, right? So for example, to give birth to a son, and what comes out from the son is not as much as intense as it is for a daughter. The daughter there's more about her. Okay. It's like a land, right? So the soil has to build the strength, right? So when you look at the word Adamah for soil and earth, she has to bring, that's why it's feminine, because she has to do the work. She has to do that. She has to give all the nutrients, like the umbilical cord going to the baby, everything is being sucked down to the child. But when you got a female child, it takes a little bit more. She has to produce, because then she's being built to be able to produce more, like to, other ones to put some seed to make her real fertile, right? She has to have that strength. So when you have a female child, Yah says it's going to take double the time for her to recover. Okay. Plus also too, women you guys are built differently. The cycle of menstruation is a purification process. Okay. And for a male, you go through the 7 days and then you got to wait 33 days before you can approach Yahweh. Okay. So that's a total of 40 days. With the female, you're going to do the 14 days. Okay. I think it's 14 plus another 66.
66. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's 80 days. Double.
Right.
She's double, right? So she's double. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is when Yah talks about the land, you guys are just like the land. You have to be able to produce. The men are just the seed holders. They're different. They're completely different. A lot of people get this twisted and say, well, women are more unclean than a man. No, actually, a woman is cleaner because she actually goes through the process of being cleansed on a monthly basis, and the reason why she's considered unclean is not because just of her blood, because what's in her blood is an egg, it's life. And so the egg dies through the menstruation process. And that's what causes her to bleed, is that those eggs are dropping. So then they're dying. Okay. So then she has to go through her purification process. So she's always ovulating, right? And she's always getting rid of that seed. So Yah is cleansing her on a regular basis. A male, all he does is dispense seed. Okay. That's all he does. And so, but when he dispenses it, the semen then becomes dead. That's why he wants a person, after you have sexual contact or intercourse, a man and a woman is supposed to go bathe their bodies. They don't supposed to lay in bed and just wake up to the next morning. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to bathe your body because you have death on you. Okay. So even if a man comes in contact with a woman, do you remember what Yah said? He said, I'm going to come and see you in 3 days. And Moshe, he instructed, make sure the people wash their clothes. And then Moshe then told the men, don't come near your wives. Okay. For what reason? Could have been they've been menstruating. Yes. But also too, when men have their emission, they can contaminate their wives. So what we're learning from Yah is that even though you guys are a different species than animal, you still have some uncleanness about you, because you want to approach me like me and you're the same, and we're not. You're a created being and you come from the earth, and you guys go through these cycles, and it's perfectly normal, because that's why I made you. I made you with these cycles. You can't have, sons without semen, and you can't have a son without an egg, ovulation. You need these things. But during those processes, understand that you are unclean. And if you're going to be my people, I'm bringing recognition to your uncleanness. So you can understand that I'm different from everyone else. And therefore, if you're going to approach me, you need to remain in a process of being cleansed. You just can't walk up on me. But I hope that was a little bit of information. I'm not 100 on that. I thought surely because of everything that goes into a woman, you think about all the glands that you guys have. You got mammary glands, you got to feed the child, you got to hold it, you got to nourish. I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot more going into you guys. It's a lot. It's a lot going in. All right.
So is a woman in error if she has like a hysterectomy?
No, I mean, you can't help that. If she did it intentionally, what if it's for health reasons, no, I mean, the body is going to fail, right? There's different parts. It's like saying it's sinful if you got to get your gallbladder taken out because you can't do it anymore, or you had a neck surgery like me, almost died, but, so no, it's not. It's just the bodies. It's just the vessel that we have, but the point that I'm trying to make is that Yah is using the Wayikra to show us the difference between that which is clean and that which is not clean. And he wants to bring an awareness to us that, yeah, even like the animals are clean and unclean, I have to tell you when your processes are too, because you guys were created on the same day. You're just a little bit more elevated than the beast. You're just a little bit more elevated. That's all. Don't think that they can't communicate because they go through the same processes. Dogs have menstruation. Do they not? Does horses have semen?
Yes.
So we're not that far different. You understand? So our nature, right, supposed to be able to take the humanity of us and master it and understand like, okay, I'm dwelling in this, but yet there's times in which I have to remain clean. And that's what Yah is trying to tell us, that I want you to remain clean. All right. We're going to get a little bit more into that later on this week. So I'm sorry that you ladies have to go through a double time.
But I do appreciate your words.
Yeah, but the good thing is that, well, the bad thing is if you got, a male, since he's in charge and Yah said, okay, well, I'll give you authority and you're the master of your home. If you screw up, I'm killing everybody that you own.
Wow.
So ladies, make sure that you pick the right guy, because if you don't, you're going to die with him just on default. See? And if you're trying to go find a man, you better ask, are you circumcised? And my sons need to be circumcised. And if you're older and you have sons, you go tell them you need to go get circumcised. You need to go get circumcised. Otherwise, you're not in covenant. That's an everlasting covenant. It's forever, as we were told by the Creator himself. Now, we can take his word for it, or we can take Paul's word. It's up to us, whichever one you want to believe.
Okay. And Dawid, you mentioned Ishmael and them being the Arabs. Are they actually who's considered as Edom?
No, they're not Edom.
Because I thought I read somewhere that that they were ruddy in color.
Well, they are, but you remember Edom married Ishmael's daughter, so they're connected, right? So the picture that I showed you, here, let me show it to you. It showed you that he had a daughter. He has a whatchamacallit. He married Ishmael, his uncle's daughter, right here. Her name was Basemeth, right here on this chart. Her name is Basemeth. This is who Esau married, and she's from Ishmael's line. So they had their blood mixed in there from uncle, right? And then she had him, and then they had these people, they had, look at here, Zerah, seed. They had Amalek, which was from a concubine named Timnah, right? And then, that's one of his concubines. And this is the one that Yah says that he hates. Like he says, this guy right here, his descendants will never, Yah wants to wipe them off the face of the earth, right? But no, they're together. But Ishmael's seed If you look at this word Kedar, go look at the Arabs and look at these names.
Mhm.
These are all their names. Abdil and all them, Hadar and Kedar. That's them. That's them.
Well, where the Caucasians came from?
You know, that's only thing I know about them is that they come from the Caucasus Mountains, and they're from up by the Baltics. And you know, it might be connected to where, you know, there was a story about which we're going to read later on this week about Zazarat and how Yah turned everybody white. So we might be able to find that out. But white folks are different. They're Neanderthals.
Yeah.
They're genetically different. Yeah.
So I think somewhere along the line, somebody had sex with an animal or something like that.
Hey,
you
hey,
know?
you know what? They eat each other, and they do a lot of different things that, you know, that we would never do. But, you know, they used to eat us. You know, you can look that up. When we were slaves, when we were here, they used to barbecue us and put us and eat us and everything. I don't know if you guys knew that, but yeah.
I knew that they would take the skins off of a slave's body and
Yeah.
make shoes and stuff.
Yeah, they would do that, but what you think they would do with the meat? They actually, there were people who ate us as a delicacy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
sorry to tell you that. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's some special kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's what it is. And you know, that's why they can eat each other. They're cannibals, right? They don't have a problem eating us. You know, you guys heard of Donner's Pass, you know, when people got snowed in, they'll eat you up, but don't feel bad because Yah says, Israel, you turn on me, I'll cause you to eat your own kids. You guys will be fighting over who's going to eat such and such today. And he did that to us, you know, because we failed to do what he said. So, you know, let's just hope that, you know, things are going to get, the dust is going to settle, and then he's no longer going to be mad at us. You better stop playing with him. That's all I'm going to tell you. You guys want to play with them? I'm not playing with them. Okay. So also understand, I'm going to start destroying the New Testament, just to let you know before you go. I'm going to destroy the New Testament because often I talk about the Torah, but I never tell you about what the people in the New Testament talk about. But I'm starting to recognize and realize that, hey, you know what? You know, these people they're gone, you know? So I'm going to start destroying the New Testament, just to let you know. We're going to spend a little time there. I'm going to let you know what it is. Yes, Kale, go ahead.
Yeah, just because you started talking about that subject, because I got into an argument with my sister about this yesterday, but whenever you start to talk about that, can you just think about like talking about why they still think why the Christians think we're under grace right now? And you don't have to answer that now, but later on, I just want to have more clarification because I want to come back to her and.
Oh yeah, don't know for sure. I'm going to be able to explain all that. I've been studying it. I've been looking at it, and I got a sense of why they're doing what they're doing, and I kind of understand, and it makes sense to me. You know, before I was trying to get, you know, literally get the hell out of there. Now that I'm out, now I can understand why they say what they're saying. You know. That's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to start tearing it down, and I'm going to tear them down. And then you're going to be able to tear people down who want to talk about this, because the time for us to be quiet now is over. Okay. It's time, that's over. It's time for me to destroy the New Testament because people are still holding on to it as if it's a legitimate document, and it's not. We'll talk more about that. I don't want to keep you guys too late.
They're not just holding it, man. I mean, they just like
they're
ready to kill you if you say anything that's contradictory to it.
I know I've been saying it to you guys, and I've lost family members. They mad at me because I know the original language. So, but guess what? After I show this to you, then you're gonna see like, okay, well, wait a minute. It's not like they're deceived. You guys, we would like to think our family's deceived, and I want to tell you they're not. Yah's not saying they're deceived. Yah says, I called, but you didn't answer. You wanted to do what you wanted to do according to your own plans. Because you want to do your plans, I'm going to destine you to the sword. I'm going to kill you because you decided that you're going to go against me. Yah's not coming to judge without a reason. He's not saying you guys were deceived, so I'm not going to let you go. You didn't know. That's all what they would call BS. Okay. And that's what these preachers and these rabbis and these pastors and these wannabe Levites, that's what they're pushing. So now it's time for me to tear them up again. I let off a little bit, but now it's time for me to put my foot on the pedal and I'm going to destroy them. And I'm not going to destroy them with my words. I'm going to show you what Yahweh says versus what they say, like we did tonight. So Genesis 17:7, 1 Corinthians 7:17, go back and look at it. Later on this week, I'm going to tell you about something else, and it's going to blow your mind. So you're going to write this stuff down and be like, dang, this is what it is. These people actually, this is what he said. Then you'd be like, okay. So then you could make your decision. Do I want to listen to the New Testament or do I want to listen to the covenant that I'm under? Which one do I want? And more than likely, a person who doesn't want to change their ways is going to stick with the New Testament because that gives them the out to them to do what they want to do. Don't you get it? It's easy to do that. It's all about faith. It's all about believe and trust and all this kind of stuff, all the miracles and the spirit and all that. So it's full of witchcraft. And I'm going to be able to prove that to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. Matter of fact, next time you see your family, you may not even respond to any questions. You would know off the top, they're wicked as hell. That's all you're going to say. They're evil and they're wicked and they're traitors to Yahweh. Yeah, if you've been reading your Psalms, you've been hearing David say that, haven't you? He said, these are some evil, wicked people. These are some wicked people.
Mm-hmm.
Destroy them. You think he's talking about the nations? You think he's talking about the white man and the Chinese? And who do you think he's talking about? He's talking about Israel. Yah has wicked people in Israel that are wicked and that are going to continue to perpetuate the stuff that they need to get us off of Yah, because what is the goal? The goal is, remember what they said. He said, when you say that we're going to be like the nations, you said that you're going to be like them. And he said, that's never going to happen. That's their goal. That's why they need a new God, because the God that they were serving says, I'm going to tear you behind up. I'm laying you down. I'm killing every last one of you. They don't like that. So now we got a God that loves us and it's not going to hold us responsible for our action. Therefore, you can do what you want to do. You can eat pork, not a problem. Yes, I'm killing anybody to eat pork. Go look at it. It's in Isaiah chapter 65, Isaiah chapter 66. He tells you right there in Deuteronomy 14 and Leviticus 11, I'm killing you. I'm cutting you off from your people. If you've done any deliberate act against me, it's called treason. It's a crime, and I'm going to put you down. I'm going to destroy you. All you got to do is read the first verse of chapter 65 of Isaiah, and you'll find out Yah said, I called, but you didn't answer. Because you're going to keep doing what you want to do. So keep eating your pulled pork sandwiches. Keep eating the bacon. Keep eating the sailfish, the gumbo. Keep doing that. You think I won't kill you over that? I will. I intend on killing you. Because you're an enemy of mine. I'm going to put you to death. I'm destining you to the sword, and I'm going to kill everybody, you and your family. And people say, I can't stand that God. I can't stand that God. That God is ruthless and he's terrifying. And we don't want a God like that. So let's just change it up and let's give us a new God. Someone who understands me and says that I'm incapable of doing what he asks.
And okay. their God also makes it make it seem that salvation is for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not.
It's not. So everybody's included. Right. And he's the God of everybody now, because as long as you have faith of Avram, then you're good to go. We'll get more into that later. I say Lila Tov to you guys and shalom.
Lala Tov.
Lala Tov.